In Tel Aviv, a man stands before a small crowd, expressing both pride and frustration. He begins by saying he's honored to be there, grateful for the invitation, yet deeply disappointed in what he calls a weak, spineless, cowardly government back home in Britain, a government that, according to him, has recognized what he describes as a terrorist state. He insists, however, that the British people themselves stand firmly with Israel. His tone is both defiant and patriotic, portraying himself as a representative of the true will of the British people rather than their political leaders. Greeting others with shalom and exchanging brief pleasantries, he expresses joy at being in Israel, emphasizing how much it means to him personally. When asked what he hopes to achieve from his visit, he says he wants to show solidarity with what he calls real strong leadership, praising Prime Minister Netanyahu as the kind of leader he wishes Britain had. He condemns his own country's leaders as cowards, claiming they were not elected by the true majority, but only by a small fraction of voters, and warns that Israel should not believe Britain's recognition of Palestine represents the will of most British citizens. He continues, speaking passionately about shared struggles and threats, arguing that Israel's security problems, surrounded by enemies and jihadist threats, mirror what he believes Britain and Europe are beginning to face. According to him, Islamic extremism is spreading across the West because European leaders have bowed down, appeasing those who would destroy their freedoms. He insists that Israel stands as a crucial example of resistance, saying Jews were once dragged out of Gaza in the name of peace, but that gesture never brought the peace it promised. He says he is there as a friend of Israel, proud and honored, standing alongside its people in defiance of what he sees as weakness and betrayal in Europe. Laughing with others around him, he jokes about being taller than his interviewer, before turning serious again, denying rumors about being paid to support Israel. He insists he has never accepted a single penny for his stance, that his motives are purely ideological, grounded in loyalty and moral conviction. He praises Israel as a beacon of democracy and freedom in a region surrounded by terror and repression, arguing that the Jewish state represents values that Britain and the rest of the free world hold dear. He dismisses claims that his trip is funded propaganda, saying that while mainstream outlets like the BBC or Sky News will always push false narratives, he and his allies are there to show the truth from their own perspective. He mentions a website that will supposedly allow supporters to follow his visit closely, though he jokes about the $7,000 per post rumor, saying that if such payments were real, he'd be a millionaire by now. His companion welcomes him warmly, saying it's been a long time coming, even joking that he's there on a state visit as an enemy of the state in Britain, friend of the state in Israel. He embraces the label of enemy of the state, saying it's proof he's standing up for what's right, not just in Israel, but across other nations. He recounts a story about traveling to Colombia, being refused entry, and then deported, only to be welcomed in Panama after the mayor personally intervened, sending a security convoy to meet him and apologizing for the incident. This story, he says, shows that his influence and message are spreading globally, that people everywhere are beginning to recognize his supposed struggle against global censorship and political persecution. His companions nod, saying everyone in the airport knew who he was and wanted to meet him, suggesting that even his critics respect him. The conversation turns to how he's greeted like Donald Trump, a populist figure admired by some and vilified by others. He says he wishes he had met Trump, who had just been in Israel days earlier, but still feels honored to follow in his footsteps. He ends his comments by warning about Britain's leadership, accusing them of abandoning Jewish people and pandering to extremist ideologies. He paints a picture of moral decline, of a government too afraid to speak truth or defend its own citizens. To him, Israel represents everything Britain has lost: strength, unity, and the courage to fight for its values. His speech is part conviction, part performance, designed to showcase defiance against what he calls the cowardice of Western elites. It's both an act of admiration for Israel and an indictment of Britain's political establishment. Following this, another scene unfolds inside the British Parliament, where the debate over national security and leadership grows heated. A member stands and accuses the Prime Minister of evasion, claiming the government has failed to answer direct questions about secret meetings, Chinese influence, and national security breaches. The opposition demands accountability, arguing that the collapse of a major espionage case proves the government is too weak to stand up to China. They charged the prime minister with deflecting blame onto civil servants and the media instead of accepting responsibility for failures in leadership. The opposition leader argues that if the prime minister cannot protect members of parliament, he cannot protect the country, accusing him of cowardice and failure in defending British sovereignty. The prime minister responds, insisting the case fell apart because of outdated legislation passed by the previous government. He claims that his administration is being transparent, promising to disclose full witness statements to prove nothing was altered or hidden. He accuses the opposition of hypocrisy, saying they had years to update the law but didn't. Instead of addressing real issues, he argues, they are simply slinging mud for political gain while his party works to renew the country through planning reforms, new hospitals, and youth opportunities. His tone grows defensive and frustrated as he insists that the real weakness lies not with his government, but with those attacking it from the other side of the aisle. Yet, beneath the shouting and political theater, the underlying tension reflects growing public unease over China's influence in Britain and broader fears of national vulnerability. Critics argue that the government's failure to confront foreign infiltration signals moral and political decay, framing the issue not as policy disagreement, but as betrayal of the nation itself. This accusation of being too weak on China feeds nationalist sentiment, suggesting that compromise is equivalent to treason. The rhetoric transforms foreign policy debate into moral condemnation, turning questions of diplomacy into accusations of disloyalty. In both the streets of Tel Aviv and the halls of Westminster, the message is the same. Britain is portrayed as a nation in decline, betrayed by its own leaders, desperate for strength, and looking abroad for the kind of resolve it once believed it had.